Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Montgomery, and today I am here to teach you how and why to play IDP Fantasy Football. If you're a redraft guru or a strategist in your Dynasty League, you are likely only playing with half of the total NFL players, maybe even less. But if you learn how to play IDP Fantasy Football, you will immediately get a greater appreciation for the game we all love so much. So who are the star players that you're missing out on? Who are the ones tasked with taking down your favorite players like Patrick Mahomes, Justin Jefferson, or Travis Kelce? I can assure you that the level of energy played on both sides of the ball is equal, but we only give appreciation to the one side of the ball, the one that gets all the glory, the one that scores all the points. But there are equal amounts of points on the other side of the ball. You just have to get in a league. The real game is played on both sides. You have an offensive team who is there tasked to try to score a touchdown every single time they have the ball. You have the opposite side of the field looking to do exactly that, the opposite, keep them out of the end zone. So who are the players that are doing so the best? Are they the ones we all hear on every broadcast, or are there others hidden deep in the dirt? I can assure you that there are, but you got to stick with it. You have to learn how to do it, and you have to be willing to dive in and make mistakes. But that's why I'm here, to prevent those as much as possible while also giving you a little bit of strategy to understand how to win this game. So the old adage is defense wins championships. So why not start here and win championships in fantasy football utilizing the best defensive players? Now, I'm not here to diminish the nostalgic 9-player redraft league that you've been drafting in your garage with your buddies for your whole life. But I can assure you that you can add a level of juice to this game by adding more players, more strategy, and more stats. Here's what you need to know when you start an IDP, redraft, dynasty, whatever, fantasy football league. The first thing you need to know when doing an IDP fantasy football league is understanding the position groups involved. To start, you have defensive line, linebackers, and defensive backs. Defensive linemen are on the opposite side of the offensive line, tasked with trying to either stop the run or disrupt the quarterback's flow. This is divided into two positions, defensive tackle and defensive end. Defensive end is lined up on the edge, and they are tasked with going after the quarterback, while the defensive tackles are on the interior, used to run, block, and take up space in the middle. Linebackers consist of two positions as well, the middle linebacker, the inside linebacker, and the outside linebacker, who is also considered an edge rusher in some cases. Now, the edge rusher does the same thing, keep that quarterback in the pocket or take him down by any means necessary, while the inside and middle linebacker, my personal favorite position, are there to be the field general and to take down any ball carrier within their grasp. And finally, we get to the defensive backs, two more positions. Corners, who generally line up one-on-one with receivers but also have other assignments, and safeties, who are the most versatile and hybrid position on the entire NFL field. It sounds simple, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't understand how their league works, and they don't understand what point values are worth the most. If you have a league that benefits from big plays, it might be strategic to go after an edge rusher, somebody who will get to the quarterback with the potential to cause turnovers. If you have a league that benefits from large tackle numbers, then going after one of the best middle linebackers who takes down the ball and gets 10 to 12 tackles a game could be the most strategic position to get. But it all matters based on what your league rules are. And if you don't know them, you'll never have that competitive advantage needed to win a league like this. Now, what do these terms mean to get points? IDP consists of many terms that you probably have heard on an NFL football field, but here's a more in-depth version of what they are. I like to start with the 5 most common: tackles, assists, sacks, defended passes, and interceptions. There are other terms that we all know and use, but these are the 5 that you're going to see the most consistently on an IDP fantasy football league. Tackles are just that, get the guy on the ground. An assist is a tackle that consists of more than one player. So if you have a solo tackle, it was a one-on-one and he brought him to the ground. But an assist can consist of many people and are usually half the point value attached in a tackle. A sack is just that, get to the quarterback and take him down. Now, same concept for tackles. If you have a one-on-one situation where you bring down the quarterback, that is a sack. However, if there's a multitude of people there, it is counted as an assisted sack or a half a sack. Finally, defended passes and interceptions. A defended pass can be anything from a batted ball out of the air to hitting a defender so hard that the ball jars loose. And an interception is just that. Take it out of the sky. Ball hawk. That is how you score. Now, like I said earlier, if you understand what your league values, Getting players that do the specific point totals that are the most will help you have a strategic advantage against your competition, but you have to be able to understand that. So, who is the most valuable? It's going to depend on what league you're in. If you have a 3-down linebacker, he's probably going to have a lot of tackles. If you have a dominant edge rusher, he's going to have a lot of sacks. But you have to understand where to allocate your draft value resources and get to the player that's going to win you the most games. So now that you know what you're looking for, who are the names you need to familiarize yourself with? Don't worry, there's a lot, and you may know some of them. My favorite position on the football field is the linebacker. There is a multitude of reasons why, but the main reason is if you have a one-on-one situation where it is defender versus the man with the ball and you have a dominant linebacker in front of them, it is the most intimidating sight in all of sports. And one of these people who does this so well is the linebacker for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Foye Oluokun. Foye has led the NFL in tackles multiple times over his career, but you probably don't know his name that well. Doing IDP Fantasy Football, if you didn't know his name, you have to be living under a rock. This guy is absolutely explosive and is a tackle machine, and he is a set and forget guy, the likes of which Patrick Mahomes and Justin Jefferson is on the other side of the ball. But he's not the only one that's like that. Edge rusher Max Crosby is insane to have in fantasy football. Obviously, he is a personality on and off the field, whether you've seen any of his social media videos or not. But the guy has a knack for terrorizing the opposing quarterback. Now, whether it's the intimidating force of the long-sleeved tattoos or just the general hit velocity that the guy has, it is an incredible sight to see. And if you have him in an IDP league, it is that much more satisfying. Now, my personal favorite player of all the leagues that I'm in is Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith, you know, is the star middle linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens, and he is just that, an IDP star. The guy can do everything from big plays, get to the quarterback, or tackle everything in sight. You'll have games that seem out of reach and then suddenly tackle. Roquan Smith will quite literally carry your team to victory so long as he's on your side of the screen. Now, you can't forget those interior rushers, right? I am a huge fan of defensive tackle Derrick Brown. He is a young dynasty asset who is super fun to watch on the interior pass rushing. But, you know, somebody's got to take that Aaron Donald spot now that he's retired. And I believe that Derrick Brown or Justin Madubuike could take up that next role of interior pass rushing phenoms. Now, the secondary, there is a multitude of people that can play in the secondary. But you have to understand who is the most valuable. Now, the first thing that comes to mind you may think of is a dominant shutdown corner. But honestly, those players are not very good to have. Because their name recognition is so big, quarterbacks tend to avoid going to their side of the field. And as you know, fantasy football is a stat-based game. Players that do not produce stats do not produce points. No points, no wins. You have to have points. You have to have points. So as much as I would love to have a stalwart shutdown corner on my team, it doesn't really matter. What you need to do is have an in-the-box safety, somebody who is there at a hybrid position and will go after the ball carrier. But it's your team. Build them how you want them. That's the beauty of this game. But you have to understand who to play and what points are available to them. Finally, the most dominant players are not always the most recognizable stars in IDP fantasy football. Sometimes you're going to find people that you have never heard of on a broadcast take over your team and lead you to victory. That's the beauty of this game. You are not playing with just 6 players on an offensive field. You are playing with all 11 and sometimes the backups and the people that sub in for injury. This is a game loaded with talent, and adding IDP players to your roster adds that player pool, making it an even more exciting game to play. But that's not the only thing that you have to do. You have to understand what an NFL defense is. NFL defenses have a variety of schemes, but I'm going to break it down to just 2, a 4-3 and a 3-4. The main thing that you need to take away from is whatever number's first is how many people will be on the defensive line. So a 4-3 has 4 and a 3-4 has 3. The other number is the amount of linebackers on the field. So in a 3-4, there are 4 linebackers, and in a 4-3, there are 3 linebackers. This is important because you do not want to have linebacker number 4 on a team that plays a 4-3, just like you wouldn't want to have the 5th linebacker on the other team. because the chances of them being in the game are slim to none, depending on what schemes are being played. Now, if you don't understand that type of thing, I'll make it as simple as possible. If you're not on the field, you can't score points. So you have to understand what teams are using what players and how often they're being used. An easy way to do that, find and understand snap counts. Who is playing the most snaps on any given team? Most teams can have 40 to 50 snaps a game. And if you have a linebacker that's playing 10, then that means over the course of a 2.5, 3-hour game, you are hoping that your player in 10 plays can score you enough to beat your opponent. Whereas you have a player who plays all 35, 40, 45 snaps in a game, you are tripling and quadrupling your chances of scoring. But you have to understand these things, and you have to understand why the NFL plays these players. It's similar to NFL offenses that have a pass first or a run first offense. If you have a player that is a running back for a team that's going to heavily pass the ball, then the chances of him scoring are slimmer than if you had a team that would run a power run. And the same thing for the inverse. A team that has a dominant running back maybe doesn't utilize their pass catchers as much. So with defenses, it's the same thing. You just have to look at personnel groups and understand who is going to play in what position. So what makes a player good for fantasy? That's going to depend on your philosophy. But I like to think of it as ignoring all other noise. So if you see your player on an X highlight, juked out of his shoes by a receiver, just understand that it doesn't matter as long as the guy didn't score. Did he get tackled? I don't care who got burned. I don't care who missed whatever assignment. I care about scoring points, and the people that score the most points are the people that play in the game. So understand who's playing, why they're playing, and get that guy on your team. And finally, the best way to play this game while understanding NFL defenses, watch them. Watch what's going on. Watch the players that are in the back, because chances are you've never really paid attention to NFL defensive football, especially when you have players on the screen that you love to watch. But take the time to watch what is going on the opposite side of the ball, and then you'll understand the game at an even higher level. Fantasy football is fun, but IDP fantasy football is even better. You have more players, you're understanding the game at a higher level, there are more stars involved, and honestly, who doesn't love to see a big hit or a crucial stop in a big moment? If you have that guy on your fantasy team, it's the equivalent of watching one of your players catch a game-winning touchdown, or maybe have that one-handed grab we all love to see. You have these same opportunities on the other side of the ball, and you just don't even know it. Now, regular fantasy uses the 6 skill players. You are using 11 on defense, and that can be overwhelming. But my advice to you, dive in and build the team you want to see. Whether it's screwing around with names you like or investing in young studs that you think will make that next jump over the course of their career. But understand that if you don't dive in there and you try to tiptoe in the waters, you'll never be successful. So go all in, push your chips in the middle, and play IDP Fantasy Football. Thank you for watching this video. My name is Matthew Montgomery. You can follow me on X at MattMontyFF, and you can read all my articles on footballguys.com. Thanks a lot.